Greetings, Dr. Jeffrey Scott here. This is my Market MRI Pro update for Monday night, August 4th, 2025. We said there'd be a rally this week. We bought it today. They bought the dip. Now, do we go on to new highs or is there a bull trap on tap? We'll take a look at the charts. Again, it's August 4th, 2025. My email address is marketmripro@gmail.com, and my Google group is called Top Down Trader. Love to have you join. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe, hit the alarm so you know when I post these. I don't have a schedule. I work full time in a healthcare tech company that I'm one of the founders, and I trade because I love to trade, and I built a way of trading that allows me to work all day, and I put my trades in after hours, and I do a little bit of managing them with my phone and the Thinkorswim app during the day. As always, the sessions for educational purposes only. Anything I talk about should be taken in the spirit of education and not investment advice. The intent of the video is to demonstrate my tools of top-down analysis. Trading involves risk. You are solely responsible for any investment decisions you make. I may own or intend to buy or sell any stock mentioned in this report. Trading stocks and options should be considered risky, and you should always consult with your financial advisor before making trades. And newsflash, I am a physician. I am a cancer doctor. I used to give chemotherapy for a living. I am not a financial advisor. I've got tools in multiple platforms, but I'm an independent trader and soon be launching a new tool set for MetaStock. Very exciting because it has users all over the world that I'll get exposed to. Join my Google group. It's called Top Down Trader. You just go to Google Groups, you search for all, you go to all groups, you search for Top Down Trader, and you let me know how you want me to contact you, how often, and you'll be part of the family. It is free. You can quit whenever you want to. You get discounts on my software. You get invited to members only free education events, and hope you stick around and enjoy what we do. Speaking of enjoying what we do, I love to teach. And my next educational session is set up October 27th and 28th at the Marriott in Palm Beach Gardens. It's about 15, 18 minutes north of PBI Airport. 2 packed days of education and software instruction, back to back with John Person Seminar, which is the 25th and 26th, which is a separate fee, but come for both. His is at a golf club. I moved out of mine, so I have to have mine at a hotel. You get a $400 rebate towards purchase of any of my tools if you attend. Cost is $12.50. It includes breakfast and lunch both days, and then a dinner cruise on Stocks and Docks, my little boat, on Sunday Eve. Most I can really take out there is 14 or 15. So if you include Praveen and I and my wife, that means I got room for 12 attendees at the meeting. Um, Hotel, the Marriott full service. I have the code. I'll be sending out a note soon to those that have already signed up with the code to get the 155 a night. And for more information, reserve your spot, just let me know at marketmripro@gmail.com. News and earnings. This week's a much different week than last week. Um, Tuesday, we will have trade deficit. We'll have final services PMI and ISM services. Compared to last week, it's kind of boring. Wednesday, we have nothing. Those jobless claims on Thursday will be important, don't you think, after what we saw with the monthly employment report? Or should we say lack of employment report? And as we all know, massive, massive, massive week of earnings again. And we had some big ones and big movers after hours tonight. And let me just give me a second. Let me pull up my earnings review data just to give a couple things I want to talk about. Palantir had a nice presentation. That guy is, he's a hoot. Um, Making comments about the non-believers. But we'll start on the winning side. Prim was up 14.8. Allegiant was up 4.8%. But there are some big losers. INSP down 21%. NVTS down 16%. KD down 13. HIMS down 12.7. ODD down 12.3. And one of my favorite stocks that hardly ever goes down, Mealy, Mercado Libre down 5.7%. The interesting thing is, despite having much more losers with big moves than leaders, and by the way, counters up 5% after hours. Futures, when I last looked, were up. They're not up a lot like they ended up this morning before the market opened, but they're positive, and that says something. It is a judgment call to hold stocks over earnings date. It is bad judgment to not know when your stock's earnings date is scheduled. Lots of things left this week. Now, this little thing here we call the E-index was something we put together at our Orange County meeting. I take rallies. I find the best stocks in the rally. I limit it to 2 stocks per industry. I want 15 to 25 stocks. I create an artificial index. All this is done in HDSI. And then we create a chart of that index. As long as that index holds, the market's probably not breaking down. So this index has pretty much gone sideways with a little bit of an upward tilt. And every time it teases us and touches the 50 and a break below the 50, it's broken down. It bounces. And what did we get on Monday? We had a nice gap up from the close on Friday. We had a pocket pivot. We had a kahuna. So a pretty impressive session. Looks poised to go higher. For more information, if you're using my tools and have any questions about them, if it's the Market MRI Pro application, reach out to Praveen at coding at Market MRI Pro. If it's about any of my other tools, if you want to talk to me about something, you want anything about the meeting, just reach out to me at marketmripro@gmail.com. And even better yet, join the Top Down Trader Google group. Now, you saw what I did in a up market. When we get to bottoms, we got some special tools too. And all you got to do is go back to April 9th and see when I called the bottom, which was, or April 7th rather, which was pretty much the day before the market bottom. And it's because of the tools that we use. If you look at the daily breadth report, you could see the Russell was up 2.22%, the Q's 1.85, the spiders 1.51, and the diamonds are 1.4. More important, Russell at the high of the day, the Q's at the 96th percentile of the day, spiders at 98th, and diamonds at the 98th. I love when stocks finish at their highs, and when indexes, that's even better. Bitcoin was up 1.5% after losing a couple of days, and the dollar was down just a tad, and volatility, as you'd expect, was down more than a tad. Our new highs minus new lows of the NYSE and the NASDAQ at 12 months reverted back to positive. Still relatively small numbers, but positive. If we look over here, the top bar looks at today's sectors versus Friday, today's industry versus Friday. And you can see across the board, the S&P 1500, NASDAQ, and NYSE, we pegged that all the sectors were up in most of the industries. More importantly, on the S&P 1500, 84% of stocks were up, 72 on the NASDAQ, and 80 on the NYSE. That is a super duper strong day in the markets, and you probably saw that in your portfolio, where hopefully you reverse much of the losses from Friday. Leader today, technology up 2.03, communications 1.92, utilities 1.75, and healthcare 1.43. That's a new thing. You look at 20 days and healthcare has been negative. So healthcare has not done much of late, so maybe something has changed. And energy was the sole negative. On the performers, cannabis, all right, gold, silver, social media, uranium, video games, fintech, robots, blockchain, genomics, biotech, semiconductors, China internet, software. It's growth back in charge. Woo! It's kind of things that make my portfolio go. All right, so super strong day. Let's go take a look at some different things. Timing. It takes more than one day to reverse the market timing model. And what you could see here is big up days on the spider daily, the Qs, the Russell, and the diamonds, but we still have red bongos. And on the guys on the bottom, we didn't break above the WMA. Another day like we saw in the market on Monday, we might reverse the downtrend on the dailies. We talked about over the weekend, we said as long as the weekly, and in that case, we looked at the monthlies, are in an uptrend, then we're in a pullback in an uptrend here, and that I wasn't going short. We looked at some contra ETFs. We're starting to signal on Friday over the weekend, but certainly we didn't see any follow through with them in the market um, on Monday. You can look here and see on the weekly spiders, Qs, Russell, diamonds, all above the yellow line, which is a 30-period WMA. All have my trending indicator. The bongo is blue. And if you look at the buy sell, you can see they're green, meaning the weeklies are in a buy. So according to my timing model, caution is always warranted when the dailies are pulling back. But right now, this is a pullback in an uptrend, and I am still predominantly long. Although I was a lot longer a week ago because I did take some things off at the end of the week last week. If I look at the US indexes, take a look at these one at a time. Um, as we've talked about, this line represents seasonality. We are not in a great seasonality part of the market, in the US markets. Um, this was the prior high. I think it was actually a little higher than that. Let me see. Yeah, this is the prior high for the S&P 500. Um, you know, what do you expect to happen here? I mean, best case, maybe it goes sideways for a while before it breaks out. Worst case, we've got support underneath here. We've got a 50 and we've got the prior high. So one would think we've got really good support over here. Really good support over here. What do I think happens? I talked about it yesterday. The question to me is whether or not we're going to make new highs, which by the way, we're not that far ago. Do we run up here and set new highs into the end of the year on a big bull? We could. Or are we more likely to trade up to that and fail, come down here and retest, and they'll go on to new highs? I think we go up and we stall, we retest, and then higher highs starting October into the end of the year. But we'll see. That's just a guess. But I feel pretty good that we've got good support underneath. And obviously, after a day like we saw on Monday, it's easy to be bullish, but you have to continue to watch the markets because they can get you. Just think about what we saw on Friday with the big gap down. Isn't it interesting how we filled the gap on the markets today? Big move up here, 1.85. Similar on the spiders. This is the Qs. And the story's almost exactly the same, except we are not above the highs because this is the prior high right here. That was the most recent high. Um, we are above the last highs, which were in this area. And so it's the same story. Do we break above and go to new highs? We could. Do we fail and we have lots of support down here? And then we rally into the end of the year. Again, I'm going to take the latter, but this is a trading range. And let's see what happens. Let's take a look at the diamonds. You have to have, let's go back to the spiders. I always go into the market with a high, medium, and low road. And this is something that I learned from my mentor, Ian Woodward. What a super smart guy. The high road is we just go up to new highs. Now, of course, that might look more like this. We break out. That's the high road. Medium road is we bounce around in here a little bit and then we either go to new highs or to new lows. And I think that's the most common. And the low road is we fail and break down below support. I have to think about how I'm going to manage each of them and have a plan for that, and I do. But I like to keep my mind open because just because I think we're going to pull back, retest, and go to new highs, I don't think the market cares less what Jeffrey Scott thinks. Um, all right, so we looked at the diamonds. Let's look again because I don't think I did. Same as the others. Here's the prior all-time highs, which we haven't hit. And we got right above the 50, right above the 200. So you got significant support down here. Do we run up and set new highs? Do we go sideways? Do we break down? What will you do in each scenario? That's all you can do is be prepared. When I see a super strong close like this, I think we're going higher in the short term. Let's take a look at the Russell. This is super interesting. Here's the prior highs. Um, we have pulled back to the 200 and the 50. Now, we went below it on Friday. That was ugly, but massive day to regain the 50 and the 200. Now we're right below the 17. Do we break above? Do we break down? Do we go sideways? Again, seasonality is not super here. It's not in the tank. It's just not giving you much wind at your back. So I think these markets, to say they're interesting would be an understatement. I'm pretty excited by what I'm seeing and very hopeful that we're going to have new highs before the end of the year. Uh, The issue is whether or not we retest a little bit before that, and I think a retest would not be unusual. Now, there was one thing that I didn't like about the ETFs or the major indexes today, and you can see it right here. Volume was not great. Volume was much higher on Friday, and Friday was not the monthly options expiration, although there's always weekly options that expire. The VIX, well, the VIX jumped on Friday because the market was down and it failed right at that 200. It opened below or at the 200 today and came back down, and the VIX was down 14%. And then the US dollar, which was rallying, and you know, there's probably a higher dollar that would be good because think about how much more expensive foreign goods are going to be because our dollar's cheap. You add the tariffs, sounds inflationary to me. The dollar actually dropped down this line here, which is what I thought might be resistance. So the dollar's come back a lot, down just a bit today from where it was running last week. So interesting markets. My sense is they want to go higher. Boy, we're at 17 minutes already. Gold gapped up today, up 0.5%. Silver the same, came back, didn't close at the highs, up 0.81. Um, Oil has been weak, especially the last couple of days as OPEC announced they're increasing supply, and oil was down 1.74. Natural gas is in the toilet despite the excitement around LNG. And then the 10-year dropped an additional amount, was down 0.43%, and similar drop on the 30 year. So dollar down, rates down, VIX down, strong day in the market. Okay, now are any of my breath tools showing me that it's time to be concerned? If you remember yesterday, one of the reasons why I thought we'd have a bounce, whether it was Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, I don't have that crystal ball, was because we had a lot of stocks that were below the Bollinger Bands. Well, we dropped in, for example, in the NYSE from 28% to just 13%, and the S&P 1500 from 36% to 17%, the Nasdaq from 26 to 12, and the Russell 2000 from 39 to 14. Those were numbers that suggested if we're still in an uptrend, we would probably reverse pretty quickly. Excuse me. And we did. That's all it says. Right now, there's no signal. If we look at market breadth, we could see how beautiful the NYSE pulled down to the 50 and bounced, closing near its high. The NASDAQ composite gapping up, closing near its high. And all the things we'd expect to see. The stocks above the various moving averages are up. No signal there. The new high, new lows, positive, AD lines, positive, up, down, volume, positive, and no new signals down here. We did have a Hindenburg omen last week, and as I mentioned on that day, which was Thursday, one doesn't matter. You need to have confirmation within 31, 32 trading days. So we'll see if we get that confirmation. but one's enough for me to put a jaundiced eye on the market and look at it with expectations of rolling over. Now, we may have got the rollover on Friday. Let's see where this market goes. Another way of looking at market breadth is that 13-week new high, new low, and I've got it on the spiders, the composite, NASDAQ composite, Russell 2000, and the S&P 1500. And we had a nice reversal in that, a big breath rush, frankly. Um, I mean, it was 17, 18 up to 72. Now that might be meaningful in itself. Often pullbacks end in breath rust. It's not as if we had much of a pullback, though. One day does not make a bear. But you could see a massive a massive rally across these indexes on the 13-week new high, new low. If we go and we look at the ratio charts, get a sense of what's working. This is Bitcoin, which is weakened a bit of late. Communication super strong, discretionary not so much. The defensive play, Staple made a play last week, didn't do much today. Industrials neutral. Utilities have been super strong, but it's not the utilities that are up because it's defensive. I think it's utilities because of electrical generation need for data centers. Tech is up, healthcare crying, but it's been weak. Financials weak, real estate weak, um, energy weak, materials. It's like communications tech and a little bit of industrials here and utilities if you look at anything more than just the last day. So my gestalt on the market is we're going higher until we stop. I think that we will pull back and retest those areas of support that I mentioned earlier. I doubt we go on to new highs in August and September, considering how they've been over the last several years. But a run up and a test of those highs, and we could break out higher, which is scenario one. Or how about a failure there, a move to the lower area of that trading zone, and a successful retest, and then we move higher and come out of the scenario number two and go back into a new high land, or do we go down to the bottom of the range and break lower? I think all these are possible, and you have to sit there and think, how am I going to trade them? What am I going to look for? But right now, my timing model says it's a pullback and an uptrend, so I'm thinking it's going higher. So we had a couple of picks that we gave you yesterday, and I don't want to take a victory lap, but I do want to show you some of the things that we mentioned that I like a lot how they did. One of them was Walmart. I talked about Walmart because it's in an uptrend. It's had a pretty significant pullback, and it's failed this trend line a couple of times. And it was right up against the trend line on Friday on a bad day in the market. And you might have expected a pullback in some of the things that did well on Friday as the market rotated back, but Walmart had a nice breakout here. And remember, we can always click that and get the earnings. Oh, you're going to do that to me, aren't you? All right, we'll come back to that. Sometimes it doesn't like it when all right, let's talk, see if it'll pop up now, WMT. It prefers it when I pull it off the grid, but I think we fixed that. So let's see. Yeah, earnings are August 21st. And like Costco, it's modest growth, modest revenue growth, but certainly a leader in its class. And a lot of the discount plays were looking good last week. Costco, COST, also looked like it was getting ready. As I talked about, I'd rather it clear the 200. Even Dollar Tree. Oh, that's not it. Not Dollar Tree. Let's see if I can, the LTR. I mean, is this because we've had a shift to lower cost as the economy is dealing with lots of inflation? Or is it because these big box companies are doing well? Proof of that? How about BJ's? Didn't do as well today, but BJ's has been doing well. All right. Another one I liked was MPWR. And I liked him when you see the lines I drew. And this one had a beautiful breakout. Now, was this on earnings? Yeah, it had earnings on the 31st, so that was Thursday, with surprises, good earnings growth, and it really had a nice move in the market today. It looks like it's getting extended, but in a stock that's been in a downtrend, why do I say that? Because the high jump is up to 100%. I give it some room when I've got the moving averages all together. And so I would still look at this, although it's a super expensive stock, which is what I said the other day. So let's just take a look at a couple of things. Let's go to the top-down perspective. Now, these are not your S&P 500 or 1500 sectors. These are the 3,700 or so stocks that I follow in my impulse indicator, 3772. It makes up stocks in the NASDAQ, NYSE, and Amex that are above $1 and 100,000 shares traded. And they'll change based upon those parameters, a little bit of a range. So these will be different than the typical and much more broader. So the leadership was in communications, technology, and healthcare. Okay, kind of what we saw in the ratio charts. Industrial is a little bit further down. There were 1,478 stocks in those three sectors. But how about if I come in here and I rank these by 1 day performance? Let's take the top 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now let's come down here and let's filter this and take out stocks that are less than $5 or less than 500,000 shares. Now I'm left with 209 candidates. So a lot of things I can do with these. One thing I can do is rank them by percent move today. CommScope, they've sold off part of their company. It didn't look like they were being acquired. It looked like they were selling something off. Well, you had no idea this was going to happen, but this has been a nice mover. Notice it had my two momentum days here, and it broke up, moved up. Um, but I don't know how you would have predicted this one. This was a news event, and we have the news here on a cable arm buyout deal. Okay, next, IDEX. I don't know what this one did, but again, I wasn't looking at this stock to do this, but it's been in a nice uptrend here, a pullback to the 50, and it must have been a news event and earnings. Let's see how good their earnings were. We update right away, 8.4. It was the surprise. 20% growth, but a 10% surprise, 4.5 on revenue, no dividend. But again, hard to predict that mood unless there's seasonality, and there was no seasonality coming into that. Life Med, I like the pullback, I like the breakout, decent volume. When are earnings? Earnings are coming up tomorrow, or yep. So I'm not sure I'm going to look at this as something in the morning. VSAT, this one was on our radar this weekend. We love the seasonality short term. Was it up on earnings? Earnings are tomorrow. So again, not something that I'm chasing. HCTI, again, it looks like earnings. No. So what was that? Ugh. It doesn't tell me. Now, is this a reverse split? There were a number of reverse splits today. Don't know. Taiwan Semiconductor, someone has to make NVIDIA's chips. And this has been a great performer, one that a lot of people are probably already in. A big move. That's the kind of move that could lead to further gains. Earnings are out today, and positive surprise on earnings, negative on revenue. Not big growth compared to the PE. So none of these are standing out as I want to buy. AEHR, pullback, breakout. Was it on earnings? Maybe we'll leave that open. Not on earnings. Are there any news? Orders from major customer. Well, that's a good reason to buy something. So that might be an interesting one breaking out here. Rigetti, they had a transaction with one with Blade Air, which is helicopters. Neogenomics, recent earnings play. So I'm not finding anything I like this. I found a bunch of earnings things that went against me. So we'll skip that. How about if we throw in here, and I'm going to throw pullbacks, add that to my scan. And now I'm going to look at the things that are fives. So COM, IDEX, VSAT, Taiwan Semiconductor, Rigetti, Impinji. We talked about that, this one this weekend. Big breakout here. This one looks like it wants to run higher. Earnings came out, big surprise, or a significant surprise, I would say, on earnings and revenue, not much earnings per share growth. Um, Always like to look at news, COPS estimates. You notice how everything is built into one program here. I'm not jumping Reddit. Oh, man, this thing is amazing. Again, we looked at it this weekend and was hoping it would pull back. I have a hard time buying something after this big of a move, but maybe I should have kept going higher. CRDO is one that is in the cooling for data centers, had pulled back after breaking out here when we were watching it, had a nice session. Here's my M power. All right. And then another thing I'll do, and this is just on the top down approach, is I might go kill the pullbacks and uptrend, but let's see if any of these have the two dots, which are 2 days of big momentum. None. All right. So I haven't found a lot I wanted to buy yet, although I think Empower and Walmart still look reasonable, and Impinji still looks reasonable. I could have just gone here and said, let's take the top 10 industry groups, regardless of what sector they were in, or I could go total bottoms up and go to my impulse list, and I could do the same type of analysis. So let's do that pullback and uptrend, $5 and 500,000 share minimums. Let's hit the up and see if anything comes up to the top. Taiwan Semiconductor. So let's talk to you about my dots. I don't like watching the grass grow. I like things that are moving. Squeezes are great. It's things setting up to have the big move. But I'd rather buy them when the move starts. So I really built a software product to help me find stocks that are moving. The top line here, which is red, is my early warning signal. I call it the EMS. It's one of the first ones to turn. It is an independent trading system by itself. The second dot is a crossover system I call the CPR. Again, an independent trading system that gave me a buy signal today. Then I have a big gap. I have big volume. I have a breakout in momentum. And I look at volume, gap, breakout, and momentum as signals that my stock is starting to move. That's when I want to buy them. I have found little tricks over the years. One of my favorite little tricks is when you see two momentum dots in a row, you have something that's moving. And because typically, if you have a big move, the next day you pull back some. But if you have two blue dots in a row, there's no pullback there. So I like to look for stocks that are breaking out. SCS, steel case, must be an earnings move. Nope. What's the news here? I hate seeing lawsuits. It's being bought out. Okay, next. Joby did an acquisition today. Sounded very bullish for the company. It might be a great thing long term. Come on, Joby, give me your chart. There it is. Nice little wedge and a pop. Pop on news. Doesn't make money, probably ways away from it. IDEX, we looked at already. Major move on earnings. ENR, Energizer. I bet that earnings. Look, ooh, look at the surprise on earnings and revenue. It's got a forward multiple of 4.87. Who has a forward multiple of 4.87 unless it's been having some major issues? 43% earnings growth, revenue ups, not much, but 4.7%. That's an interesting story right there. Look at all the dots. This here is relative strength versus the spider with the moving average. And I love seeing it break out. OBV crossing its moving average. I need to do a little more research on ENR. Is there something going on? However, stories about earnings beat. All right, so do your own research. ELME, real estate. Com, we looked at ATLX. A lot of stuff on lithium today. So this looks like a small time lithium player. It doesn't make money, has some revenue. Any news? Well, that's a pretty good return on a project. Subsidiary reports strong rare earth, titanium, and graphite results. I don't know the company at all. Look at the volume that came in. That's speaking volumes to me. Might be worth doing a little research. It's a little tiddler. ZEP, healthcare technology company, breaking out of a wedge. Never heard of them. Looks like they had earnings, even though we don't have that yet. XENE. So I go down the list looking for something that looks interesting to me. Sometimes I find it, sometimes I don't. This is one that is not for the faint of heart. I gave it to people almost a year ago at about $8. It's got a drug that is in cancer that I think is very interesting. But boy, it's a volatile stock. Goldfields was another one we liked last night, and beautiful breakout here. Beautiful breakout. All right, what else can we look at? Another thing I like to do, and this is where I'm going to end it up today, is I like to go into the big list and look for those 2 days momentum up, volume and price, hit OK. And let's just look at these very quickly and see if we see anything that's actionable. Harmony, another gold miner, a cheap gold miner. And, Harmony is one of these things here that you could probably draw a line through that it broke out today. It had momentum, two dots in a row. That's what the scan is looking for. And it's those two dots in a row that often signal a big move is coming. 3 for 3, not a giant move, but a big enough move. So you got the two dots, got a nice breakout from resistance. Goldfields probably got its the two dots. This one's breaking out as well. VICI is not a casino, but VICI has a lot of properties that are in Vegas, including casinos. And there's your two dots coming out of a squeeze. It pays what, a 5.73% dividend. If Vegas and the casinos are doing well, this is probably going to do well. Regeneron is a great drug company. It's just not been a great stock for a while. PWP, don't know this one at all. Two dots. Any news? Hard for me to talk about something I'd never heard of before. Investment bank. Okay. So, oh, all right. But these all have the two dots. FVRT, down in its pattern. Eldorado Gold. This is one that I've been in. So you have another gold stock breaking out. This one has been on for days. You see, we had the couple dots over here. This one's probably going with this many blue dots coming in. Relative strength looks good. Volume was good. Earnings are August 12th. It's a food company. OSK, Oshkosh Industries. Nice run here. Earnings are not till October. It had earnings on Friday. big surprise. Revenue is not great revenue growth. Doesn't have a big multiple. I like the chart. What does it look like on a weekly? Hmm. We call that a double top. I'd have to go further to the left to see if it's more than that. So has that just been a massive base for 3 years? And now we're breaking out? That could be very interesting. I might put that on my watch list. Kimberly Clark, I think of toilet paper. I don't know why they're here. I don't see the two dots. Have to ask Praveen. Fold, Amicus. This is weird. Shouldn't be here. Ah, all right. If this was live, somebody would be yelling, Jeff, daily, daily. Right. So here's your two dots on Kimberly Clark running into resistance. Amicus fold. Used to be called Amicus. Is it still called Amicus? Come on. Give me my chart. All right. It doesn't like me. EIX, Edison International, utility, but it pays a dividend. Let's see. 4% dividend, 4.17%. Earnings are out. Nice move here. Get a big dividend, maybe a run up to the 200. Let's go back to fold. It is still called Amicus. I don't like buying things below the 200, especially if there's better things to buy. AU, another gold play. I mean, talk about flag. And this thing just gives one flag after another. Nice move up. And then lastly, ARI, Apollo Commercial Real Estate. Well, this has one thing that got my attention. 16.39% dividend. Multiples 8. Nothing fancy about the chart. I don't know what to make of two dots in a flat chart like that, but I do get excited when I see that kind of a dividend. Zach's strong buy list. Strong buy. Growing optimism about its earnings and is reflected by its upgrade. All right. Might be worth doing a little bit of research because, if this market goes sideways for a while, which it could, be nice putting some money in the bank with a 16% dividend. All right. That's my journey top down. So let me just summarize. For high road, we go to new highs. Low road, we fail and we go lower. Neutral, we go sideways. I think we move up to the prior highs and then we see what happens. And then we decide which road we're going to go. I am long. I lightened up on the puts today. Hopefully that doesn't turn out to be a big mistake. It still looks like gold is good. GFI over the weekend still looks really good. Um, and I like these two dot scans. It might be something you want to take a look at if you got the program. And OSK looks interesting we talked about this, a long-term double top. And Vici on the real estate with nice dividend and may benefit for some improvement in Vegas. And if you haven't been to something at the Sphere, go. It's amazing. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.